Welcome to KLU59 Sports. I'm your host, Kevin Lewis, a marketing manager for Chipotle's Real Food for Real Athletes campaign. Today we have a special guest in the building, a guy who grew up in the Charleston, South Carolina area, also went to school there, was able to go to Norfolk State on a full scholarship, played some pro ball that we'll get into, and then a shucks 20-year trainer, 20-plus-year trainer now.
Plus years, yeah.
Has trained a lot of guys uh from as small as 6, 7 years old. Well, actually, we got to drop that now to 4 because I'm a little girl. From the ages of 4 to all the way professional athletes. So we'll get right into that. His name is Ron White. What's going on, Ron?
What's going on, Kevin? How you doing today?
I'm excellent, man, and thanks again for doing this. We know that obviously right now we're all locked up, locked in, and Zoom has been huge,
Yes.
and getting us the opportunity to still kind of communicate, obviously, and then actually have a chance to really get a chance to deal directly with athletes who are, going a little stir crazy and are still being able to go outside and do some things. But guys, great minds like yourself, we need to definitely interview so kids will have a better understanding and idea of the things that they need to be doing.
Gotcha.
Well, we'll get right into it. Just want to start with how you grew up, where you grew up, and then how football initially, how you initially got started with football, and then how it played a role into you going to college.
Well, I grew up right here in Charleston, South Carolina. Like everybody, it's the neighborhood games. You all start off with playing with all my friends were older than I was, so some of the standout athletes. Me, my nickname was the fat kid, so I had to try to keep up with all those guys. So it was funny because those guys I looked at it, they were all standout athletes, and so we played football, basketball, a lot of neighborhood things, neighborhood sports that everybody played, and so football and basketball was always real big in the house, especially in the area. And so, we always wanted to do that. So, like I said, I always had to try to keep up with those guys. And a lot of my friends, my older friends, they were all standout athletes. And so the sports they played, I played. Because, the neighborhood, you got to do what everybody else is doing in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So, and baseball was a little something I used to dip into a little bit. But, it came, football became my first love, and basketball. Basketball, every child has a dream of possibly playing professional sports. And so it's like, oh, man, if I still say little, there's no way I can play basketball. And so I didn't know I was going to end up growing like 3 more inches once I got to college. So for the simple fact, I stuck to football. So I fell in love with football, watched those guys. Those guys were standout athletes. And they're kind of like sparked the dream of being going to college playing sports. One of the things was in our neighborhood, a lot of guys, like I said, they were all this, all state this, all state that. But their biggest thing was, their downfall was they weren't always doing it in the classroom. So I said the one thing I wanted to be able to do is I wanted to be able to do it in the classroom also and have that opportunity to go to school. So as great as athletes as they were, they all, they had, we called that 3 little word acronym, SAT or SAT.
Wow.
That was their downfall why they didn't go to school, because they didn't do well or they didn't even take it.
Wow.
So my thing was I wanted to do always more than what they did. And so I kind of, I played, I had some pretty good numbers. And at the time, I didn't have that much notoriety like those guys did. But I had, I still had decent numbers to where I could go to school. Had a chance. I ended up earning a scholarship to go to school, play football. I thought about one time playing basketball, and I had a chance. And once I got to college, once I got to Norfolk, I saw some of the size of those guys. I was like, man, right now, at the time I was like 6'4", but I grew 3 more inches. I was like 6'3" when I went to school, but I grew 3 inches. So I was like 6'1" when I finished. And so, I was like, well, my likelihood of playing in the NBA, that's not going to happen. I need to stick to one sport. So I stuck to just football.
All right, let's pause right there, Ron. We skipped over a lot. Let's go back to high school, because I think a lot of times, because we've done it so long ago that we miss the opportunity a lot of times to tell the story, because most of the time that story, and a lot of times what we gloss over, can help change a kid's trajectory. And so let's go back to your high school days. Obviously, one of the things that you talked about that's kids are getting away from big time, and you know this even as well from being a trainer, is that kids are doing one sport their entire life for the most part now. And so already you've already told us that you made a decision in college to play just one sport. So that means you're a multiple sport guy. So talk to us about, and then you talked to us about the elite guys that were better than you in high school, and then how they fell by the wayside because of that three-letter word, SAT. You talked about that. Okay, what made you? Why don't you feel like you were one of the elite guys? And then what'd you do because of it? And then you said you had an opportunity to go to school at Norfolk State. Were there any other opportunities as well? And how did you come about choosing those? I want you to go backwards and answer those questions.
Okay, I got you. Well, the first thing with high school was, it was like like I said, we had played 3 different sports. I played football, basketball, and I threw shot, discus, and track.
Wow.
And I think a lot of times, I'm watching a lot from my experience now, watching parents now. Parents are now thinking they're only having their child just play one sport because they think that they're good at that one particular sport, instead of giving an opportunity to try other sports. So I'm a big component of having a child play more than one sport, just to see what they're actually good at, and also to expand their athletic ability. Because the one thing you and I both know that multiple guys that have played like yourself and other guys, they played other sports.
Absolutely.
And that ended up helping them to their main sport, which ended up helping them get to the next level. And so I'm a big believer that we should play more than just one sport. So going back to that, like I said, I played football, basketball. And when I say I wasn't a standout guy, I was the guy that did all the dirty work pretty much. So I was a D lineman.
Right.
So I did all the dirty work. So it was like those guys had, because of who they were, they had the big name. They were wide receivers and they were corners. So they had these big numbers and big stats. I'm just the guy that just grinded out. I look at some of my stats now compared to, some of the kids now. I had decent stats. I mean, I ended up with my senior year, I had like 145 tackles. I don't remember how many sacks I had, but that's stand up for being a defensive tackle and a defensive end.
Yeah, that's past decent. If you got 145 tackles at DN, that's ridiculous.
Well, the one thing was, the guys that played before me, we had guys, man, like I said, they just hard work. So what I lacked in talent, I would always put forth the effort and work. So I wasn't going to let anybody outwork me. And so that's what I did. I just tried to outwork guys. Then, like I said, I played a little basketball and also played track. I ran, wouldn't say run, I was a thrower. So I was a shot and discus guy. So
it still was always cool to say you ran track, though.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's always cool to say that. The reality was, I wasn't going to be no sprinter. I knew that.
But you did run track. You was on the track team.
Yeah, I did.
Hey, people say I ran track. They don't say.
And you know what's funny, because when I got to college, at a track meet out, I threw a little bit of shot in college. And so what was funny was, we had a couple guys of bigger guys that could run. So one day our coaches, they were all throwers. He would say, "Hey man, I need to put one more team in it." He said, "Let's do a big man team."
Yep.
So we did a big man team. So and everybody was over 250. And
Right.
so my roommate was the fastest guy. So he was probably like 235 or something like that. So we did a big man's team. And it's funny because what made that interesting was, it was a conference track meet, and we still got points because we still placed. We ran the slower, but we still placed.
What did y'all run? What'd you do, 4x1, or what'd you do?
Yeah, we did the 4x1.
Okay.
So it was fun getting a chance to have that experience in college. So that's something we can always say. We competed in the 4x1 as a big man track team. I mean, it's a big man. Yeah. So that's one thing we look back and we laugh at to this day.
Wow. So then you're at the end of your high school career. Who comes knocking on the door, or do you even have the desire to go to college at this point, or where are you right now? And then what, eventually led to you signing with Norfolk State?
Well, right now, at this point in time, in my senior year, I still have the aspirations of going to college. So like a lot of guys, I wanted to go to USC.
Okay.
And then I didn't have guys around like me or other guys that really knew much about what to look for, how to determine this is who you're supposed to go to. So a lot of times it's going on based on what I saw. I wanted to be a Gamecock. So I said, I'm going to do that. So I applied, I got in, but they weren't offering me a full scholarship. So at that point, parents couldn't afford me to go to school.
Absolutely.
So I had a guy named, I can't think of the guy right now. I had a coach in the area, and what it was, he was a local coach in the area. And what he would do was, and I've actually started doing this myself recently. He took kids on college tours. He did a college tour, and so several guys in the area. I want to say it was some guys I went to school like James Island. They went to Buford, Battery Creek. Went to what's the school out in Hollywood? I can't think of the school name right now in Hollywood. But they had a school out there they went to, guys from St. John's, from all over the local area. So what he did was he had a van. He packed us in a van, and for like a weekend, 4 to 5 days, we took a trip to different places. So we went to different colleges. So we went to Norfolk State, Virginia State, Bowie, Maryland, North Carolina Central. We went to predominantly, black schools.
So like went on an HBCU run.
Yeah, we went to HBCU run. That's what we did. We went to HBCU run. So we had so we went to like 5 or 6 schools. I want to say it was like 6 schools. I don't recall all the schools, but I know we went to like 6 schools. And I guess, a couple guys, we were all on the tour. And we were sitting there saying that, we were trying to decide what school you want to go to, what school you want to go to. So all of a sudden we decided, we said, I said, I like Norfolk. We had a good time. I was telling my mom I enjoyed the atmosphere. So I kind of liked that campus the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was, all the schools were calling leading up to date. And at this time, I happened to go to a school where, everything, the coach pretty much primarily, the coach would usually let you know if you had letters or whatever the case may be. And so, at that, I wasn't the main guy there. So, so I knew I had to do stuff on my own. So I had, with this guy coming in, coach came in, he gave us the opportunity. And now all of a sudden I went from not having, any interest to having, I had 7 to 10 interests. But I was all over with going to school. So it was great. And so it was just pretty much up to me to decide where I wanted to go.
That's sweet, man. So obviously you said earlier that what you lacked in talent, you made up with hard work. And then right there, you saw an opportunity to go on a visit with a coach who gave that opportunity. You took it and ended up going from being not recruited or under recruited to having a choice of 7 to 10 schools. That's remarkable. All right, so
I gotta say that coach name, that was Coach Spate. So I gotta picture and say his name.
Yeah, man, shout out.
Yeah. So I gotta definitely do that, give him a shout out.
So then you obviously chose Norfolk State. Okay, they loved on you, I'm sure, pretty good. Called you, told you how great you was. So let's talk about your experience there as not just a athlete, but as a student athlete, and leading to what everyone doesn't, most don't realize is as a football player, the first time you show up on campus is not as a student. It's actually as an athlete because no one's there and
Yeah,
your campus is empty and you're in training camp. So talk to us about what that experience was like for you.
that was crazy. When you think about the size of the guys now, it's how you got high school kids that are like 6'7" and 6'8" now. It's
Absolutely.
like that, 'cause back then you might have had like one or two guys that were, 6'5", 6'6". But yeah, I got there and I looked around the room, man, as a freshman, you looking around the room, it's like, man, this right here looked like a prison lineup. And I say that just to be funny because you had dudes with like beards and looked like they had, some of the guys had they had some kids, they were in school and
Right.
it's like, man, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I need to say, like everybody else, they're 18 when they graduate. So I graduated at 17.
Right.
So needless to say, as a freshman, I still had a curfew because I
Right.
wasn't over 18.
Wow.
I had to stay in, so I had a curfew. So it was crazy. So I'm watching these guys and I'm looking around and I'm a little intimidated because I'm thinking, well, the biggest guy I probably played against in high school was probably like maybe 315.
Right.
I'm seeing several guys 315, 320, 350. I had
Yeah.
one guy I used to go against every day who was 6'8", 400 pounds.
Wow. That's crazy.
Used to smash me every day. And
Yeah.
I met another guy, a good friend of mine, Big Walt. He was from Greenville, and he said, Charleston. He's like, man, you got to stop going against this guy. He killing you, man. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm gonna keep going against him until I beat him. I'm gonna beat him at least one time, but when I beat him, that's it.
Wow.
And so, it's funny, and I used to always go against him, go against the other guys. I was able to hold my own. And it was kind of frustrating because you go from playing all the time as a freshman to not playing at all, standing aside, just being a cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard for a lot of guys to go through. And I tell all my guys now, that may be something you have to learn how to deal with that right now, getting red-shirted and have to sit in the sideline and being a good teammate.
Right.
Not a lot of guys can be a good teammate.
Wow.
So that was a big eye opener, just having to sit back and just wait, because I had a chance to play against some guys there was some standout athletes. I had to wait my turn.
Mm-hmm.
And so first time, you question your ability, like, man, do I belong, or
Right.
should I go to one of the other schools? But
Right.
at the end of the day, football is still football. So like anything, like I tell my kids, you just put your best foot forward, strap it up, let's go to work.
Mm.
And that's what I did every day. I went to work. It was like I said, it was some troubling times from time to time because unlike I think what made my college experience different was I had the ability to adjust. I had three head coaches in 4 years. So every terminology you had to learn. I had to learn something new pretty much every year.
That's crazy.
I had to be able to adjust. So I learned a lot of defenses, learned a lot of offenses. And, it was crazy a lot of times when we go to school thinking that, and I tell kids this all the time, a lot of time when you're younger, you get a chance to play what you want to play. But when you go to college, you playing what the coach wants you to play.
Absolutely.
They go put you in the best position for you to succeed. And looking back at it now, from playing in college, I would have furthered my playing career if I had been an offensive lineman versus being a defensive lineman.
Yep.
So now I tell guys all the time, it's like, don't keep yourself in that box. Just always keep your eyes open, because a lot of times you see yourself as playing one position, But, when you get to college, and then also in high school, also started high school first, a lot of time a coach's vision is he's going to put you what's going to be in the best interest to help the team out instead of where you want to play. So you have to be able to adjust with that.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you speak about the D-line like that. I've always thought that most, and I'm saying MOST, most D linemen have your story. They would definitely further their career if they swap over and go to an O-line position, play a guard, play a tackle, play a center, because they're way more athletic than most of the guys that have just played O-line up until that point.
Oh, definitely.
So moving right along, man, talk to us about, the experience of going to a HBCU. I mean, normally, like you said, when kids are thinking schools, you thought about USC, which is University of South Carolina. And that's a lot of times because you obviously want to go where you see on what you see on TV and on television. We're seeing the Power Five. So, the SEC, ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10. That's what you're viewing. So obviously that's what these kids' dreams are. But I've had a lot of friends to go to HBCU, and they talk about a much different experience, and it seems more family oriented. I've always got the sense that they felt like they left home to go home. How was your experience as it relates to that?
I could agree to that, man. It was always funny. We used to talk to guys all the time when we got there. We would say stuff like, "Oh man, HBCUs are easy to get into, but hard to get out of." and that's because of we had. I mean, it was it was home away from home, and then especially what I know when you hang with other football players and stuff, those guys become like your family.
Oh, absolutely.
You practicing 2-a-days and doing all this stuff, man. And it's like, man, I don't feel like, you have those practices like the next day, your body's sore. You over there, your roommates over there said, man, I don't feel like going to practice today, man. Like, look, man, we got 2 more days of this. To come Sunday, that's our day off. We go to church and we're good, and we can rest that day. So, so it was crazy, man. It was a great experience, man. A lot of those guys I still talk to all the time, from roommates to, other guys, man. We become, great friends. And because I'm in the position I am, where I work with a lot of athletes and train athletes. I see some of my guys that have their sons that have gone to the same alumni or gone other places, and so I'm able to kind of step in and help say, hey, we'll try this with your son, or kind of help point him in the right direction, some stuff he need to be doing, just to be able to help him out. So, so that's the way I give back to those guys, because like I said, those guys are family. I still talk to those guys today, so it's it was a great small atmosphere, compared to some of my friends that went to the USCs and Clemson and the Dukes and Alabamas and stuff. We go from having maybe 10,000 students, and they having 20,000 students, or 30,000 students. So it was a big, it was a great time being in that atmosphere. So I can't. If I had a chance to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing again. It was a great experience, man. I enjoyed my experience, man. So, I had a chance to play. I played with some great guys. A couple guys that, that played on Sunday. I had the opportunity. So, it's great, man. But the only downfall of that from going to HBCU is they don't have the resources like the USC, Florida State, and Duke guys. Well, I can remember going to Duke with you and visiting with you. And I was like looking at the weight room. Man, their facilities were phenomenal. Our facility was pretty much like, I think my home gym might have been better than our facilities, just because of, they didn't put the money into it. They didn't think it was important. They didn't realize how important, weights were. they were doing it primarily on talent. Of course, you had those guys that were weight room junkies. I think the strongest guy on our team was our fullback, was a guy named Joe. The joke was he was like built like Tarzan, played like James.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
not what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's not what you want to hear. That was the joke they used to tell him all the time. But Joe, but they would sit at the Joe to get Joe motivated. Now Joe was a bruiser now. He was 240 solid. He was 6 foot, 240 pounds solid. So he was that guy that one guy was gonna make that tackle. I also played with some guys that came from Last Chance U. I had a fullback, and I'll never forget Ricky. Ricky was 6'1", and he was 250. And I'm telling you, man, to this day, when I look at some of the bigger backs now, and I look at some of the guys, Rick really should have had the opportunity to play on Sunday. He was that guy because he could flat out run. If I base it based on some of the bigger backs I've seen now, he was a Jerome Bettis type. He was a little more agile than Jerome Bettis, and definitely faster because he could run away from guys. So he was one of those freakishly guys that he just didn't get an opportunity. And that's what happened a lot of times, man, from going to HBCUs. You just don't have the right type of agents that are funneling toward those guys that really have, I guess, the background or really the pull where they could actually help those guys out. They didn't do the right thing like guys are doing now, where they're sending guys to guys like myself and also the other training facilities, getting those guys ready for the draft. They didn't have all that. And like in most schools now, a lot of times, I know from working with guys that went to Alabama and South Carolina, their strength coaches are getting those guys ready for their pro days. So we didn't have that. We didn't have a strength coach. So that's the downfall. That was our downfall of going to HBCU, is we didn't have the facility, and we didn't also have the coaching that could have helped, I guess, harness that talent that those guys have to go to another level.
Wow.
So that's the downfall of it. But otherwise, man, if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would do it again.
Right. Well, so we're down now to the end of your college career, and you're deciding on what's next. How did that process go for you?
Well, that process was a little was a little strange. Like I was gonna leave when I thought I was hot, but at that time coming out, there was no other Jason Taylor type guys, no 250-pound defensive ends. They were like Reggie White at that time, so it was like 290, 300-pound defensive ends. And and that's what some scouts told me. It's like, man, there's no 250-pound D ends out there. So those guys looking at me, but they were saying, man, it was just like, you would have to be a linebacker being at that weight. So in me, I had some ability, but there's no way I could have been a linebacker. I knew I wasn't no outside, no 3-4 guy where I could play outside and drop hook curl. I mean, I did it in college, but to say I could do it and make a living at it, I knew I couldn't do it. And so it came down to two things: like either deciding to leave, or my mom told me, it's like, you're the first one in the family to go to school. We need you to graduate. I didn't know about the NCAA would pay for you to come back and finish school. So I was like, well, I'm the first person to go to school. If it's meant for me, it'll happen. If not, oh well. I can say I gave it everything. So I decided to graduate instead. So I graduated. And that choice led me down a road to where, going to, you hear about stuff after you finish. And, I'm still in school doing intern hours and stuff like that. So I'm trying to decide, well, I still want to play. And so at that time, the only outlet was go to Canada. And I was like, well, I didn't want to play that bad. I didn't want to go to Canada.
Right.
I didn't want to play that bad. So I said, well, I'll just go ahead and finish. I'll graduate. I'll keep seeing what's going on. And then there was opportunity, the only thing they had before, because, arena wasn't really talked about that much.
Right.
So all they had was I like to call it ghetto football. And so I played that, and I was like, yeah, I did well in that, but there was no There was no scouts coming to the game. There was no Joe D around who found Eric Swan. It wasn't those guys that would just drive past games and it was a scout that said, hey, I saw this guy, you need to give this guy a workout. We didn't have those guys coming to the game. So I passed all that. I ended up playing arena football, got the opportunity, and had a arena football taught me a lot. That really taught me how to be an athlete because arena football is not like regular football. You had to play both sides of the ball. It wasn't just I'm just play defense and I'm good. Mm-hmm. Nah, you play offense. I mean, you play defense, you play offense. You played every special team. So I think playing arena football helped me kind of harness my skills. It kind of helped me, I guess, expand my horizon toward playing. So I was able to do more. So because I was able to make that adjustment, anytime they needed a guy to play a different position on the line, I could play. So, it even taught me how I taught myself how to play center. I mean, even though I hated to do it, but if a guy went down, I could play center.
Right.
So we'd be sitting in film sessions, and I can remember my coach yelling at him, well, who was the side was to do that? Why wasn't the ball there? It was like, Coach, that's White. You got to snap the ball better than that, right? I said, I was like, Coach, I mean, that was my first game I played center ever. And he was like, that's no excuse, son. You it's like anything else. You strap it on, you're playing football, you got to play.
Expectations, boy.
From that point on, I was like, look, man, if I'm going to play something, I'm going to always do the best I can at it, try to exceed at it. So I worked on it and played center. So, I played different things, and it led me to, getting a couple tryouts with some teams, and being in Atlanta, sitting there having, and this is why representation is important. And I always talk to guys about having good representation, man, because, there's a lot of these fly-by-night agents out there that, they'll give you the song and dance, and at the end of the day, I can do more for myself than they can do for me.
Absolutely.
So, so I went to about 4 or 5 guys that were just horrible. So I can remember sending film to all teams at the time. The internet wasn't big, so I couldn't just send film out there. So what I did was I sent fax. I sent fax to all 32 teams at the time. So I sent all my stats and stuff, and so that's how I got hits with Denver and Atlanta and one other place I forgot it was. And so I was just sending stuff out and just going to workouts. And at that time, I remember when you were still playing with the Giants, I remember they had a guy who was working out somewhere. I forgot what school we were at. We went down and tried to work out for the Giants, because they were looking at it. So it was just, going through all that, it was a frustrating experience, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't change anything because it made me who I am now.
Right.
So, fast forward, once when I realized my playing career was over, I was done with, I said, all right, well, my trainer at the time, which nickname was the Reaper, because, you had 2 points, you finished the workout with dying.
Yeah.
So that was an option.
Wow.
So I did that. He got me into training guys, and I always, I knew a little something about football, and so I kind of started, dibbling and dabbling with training athletes, and he was like, "Look, man, you ought to do this." And I started doing it. Started coaching from that.
Mm-hmm.
I coached a lot of kids. To this day, I'm at 303. So I've sent over 303 kids to school on athletic scholarships.
Wow.
So that ranges from football, basketball, track, and soccer, female soccer, and all. So I can, so that was my way of giving back.
Wow, that's amazing.
In that direction. So, I can honestly say that some guys that that I coach with, their big thing was it was all about them winning. And my thing as a coach, being successful, is how many kids I can send to school.
Absolutely.
So I'm still sending kids to school. So that's a great thing.
Wow.
I think we've kind of fast forward back up to where I think I've answered those questions you wanted me to ask. So
yeah, you did a great job. Yeah, we're caught all the way back up, and we're ready for a few new ones. So You talked about your training, how you got to that point. What's your training philosophy? Like, what are your beliefs? And I know, obviously we're good friends, so I know a lot about you. There are certain things that you talk about all the time. What are those things, and why do you believe so much in them?
Well, I'm a big character guy.
Uh-huh.
Your talent can take you places, but your character can keep you there.
Yeah.
So I'm always been big on character, and I always stress character to guys because watching today, a lot of guys now that are kind of gone astray. Their talent got to them, but they can't stay in the game, but yet they enjoy doing it. And so I'm always a big component on character, and also your center of friends, who you surround yourself around with. That's big. A lot of my high school kids now, before I actually start training those guys, I kind of look at some of the guys that hang around them or they hang around. And I tell them, I said, well, you know what? You got to get rid of your friends. I had a couple kids, I told them, get rid of all your friends. I said, why, coach? They're my friends. I said, exactly. They're your friends. And the stuff that they're doing is going to only bring you down. So, so we have to change that circle of influence, what I like to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I always talk about, character, especially, the circle of friends, the people that you surround yourself around, and also just that ability to compete. I tell guys all the time, like myself, I know based on you and some of the other guys I've had the pleasure in working with, the talent level was through the roof. And I was like, man, it's like, I had to work so much harder because, just to even be in the same room with you guys, talent-wise. So, hard work is something I always preach, hard work, because at the end of the day, I always tell guys, man, the same thing, I'm not going to let anybody outwork me, because I know at the end of the day, your talent gets you there. I have two guys that can do the same thing, but it's all based on how you work, your work ethic. If your work ethic is slack, one guy's work ethic is slack, and the other guy, his work ethic, he's going all the time. Coach is going to choose, they'll go with the guy with the better work ethic. That's what they're just going to do. And so that's kind of like, that's what I tell my guys, man, you do not let yourself be outworked. Don't let the next guy outwork you.
It's fun.
Kind of like my philosophy.
Yeah, it's funny you discussed that hard work thing. There, during doing this Chipotle series, I've been able to talk to a few coaches already in this platform, and that's been a common theme about them being able, when it comes to recruiting, they want to be able to see that jump out through the film.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. I had a coach, Coach White, that's the defensive coordinator for Western Kentucky. I had him say that he was watching a kid and he immediately pressed pause and then went to the video where, man, I'm going to mess this up. I want to believe it was Darryl Green running down. Man, who did he run down?
Who did Darryl Green run down?
No. But it was the way it happened. Because he ran the guy. He ran, I think it was Emmitt Smith.
It was somebody, it wasn't what was it was an intercept. It was an intercept.
No, it was Eric Dickerson. It was Eric Dickerson.
Uh-huh.
It was Darryl Green ran down Eric Dickerson. And he said that play came into his mind when he watched this kid. And obviously he's offering the kid.
Oh, yeah.
So it wasn't even, that kid didn't even make a play like that. It was more so that the effort that he was able to show on the film put Coach White in the mindset of the effort that Darryl Green showed in running Eric Dickerson down, because it was a touchdown for sure, for certain. Darryl Green was backside corner. Eric Dickerson broke opposite. And he went and got him, at 50, 60 yards.
Yeah.
So, on film, listen, there's ways that you could have showed effort without ever getting down.
Yeah. Right.
and it's so amazing because you said hard work, outworking, and I'm translating that to mean effort. And that's been a common theme. So it's awesome that, even as a trainer, that's what you're trying to instill into your athletes.
It's funny. I was talking to another friend of ours the other day. I had to reclassify myself. I'm not a trainer. I'm a developer of talent.
Okay.
That's what I do. I develop talent.
Well, here's a question for you that might stump you. And I'm sure a question that nobody's ever thought of asking you, because I don't know where this question even came up when I prepared to interview you. What have your athletes taught you? That you've been able to help and develop, what have they taught you? And obviously I'm not talking about list everything, but just a few things that you've learned from them.
But I know they don't always have my same mindset when it comes to wanting to excel all the time.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. Like, I see myself as, like if I went through something or I don't think I played well, I'm going to work at it so that the next time I get that same opportunity, I'm going to excel at it. Some of those guys are like, my athletes now have been like, well, I think that was good enough, and they just stick with it. They're okay with it. And that's the hardest thing for me to kind of, I guess, to accept. Like, they're okay with like mediocrity instead of trying to excel.
Right.
And you know what I know, playing on the next level, it's the best of the best always. So you'll have those guys that, that fall through the cracks and they get in and they stay in. But those guys that deserve to be there, they stay there. And I have guys that now, and I have guys and girls, I should say, athletes that, they have all the aspirations of playing professional sports, whatever it may be, but they just don't have that want to or that drive. And so that's the one thing I no matter how I am, I try to inspire people, try to push people to bring out the best in them. At the end of the day, it's their decision how hard or how much effort they want to give. Wow. And that's the one thing that's taught me about the new age athlete now. I can come up with all kind of, I can be creative and come up with all kind of schemes to give them the best shot or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all about them. If they're not willing to put forth the effort, then they can only be as successful. It depends on how much effort they put out there. And that having that want to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. So another question, what are some things athletes can do under these circumstances? Obviously we're, in a pandemic, there are, only essential movement, but kids are still being able to go outside, go to parks, go in the front yard, or just be in their rooms or in, garages, training. What are some things that you think under the circumstances, and not just the kids, but you got pro guys that are starting to post videos on Instagram and stuff of what they've been doing since they've been down. And obviously basketball was at the tail end of their season in NBA, so they're really in a if you look at football, big deal. Wasn't nothing really going on except for college and you were in spring. Big deal. Pro, obviously nothing was going on. But when you look at baseball, when you look at and especially basketball, that at this point right now, we should know who's going to be the number one seed, who don't have a chance to make the playoffs, and playoffs should be getting underway. Like what should all these athletes, because obviously you've been around all of them, from the younger ones to the ones that I'm talking about NBA wise and NFL wise, what should they be doing at this point, and how can they get decent workouts under these circumstances?
Well, body weight exercises have been here at the beginning of the time and be here at the end of the time. So, body weight is great, whether it being push-ups, sit-up, jumping jack, lunges in place. But, one of the best that you take from some of the boxers I've had a chance to work with is jumping rope.
Wow.
Jumping rope is essential. Like a lot of people that say, well, I'm just going to go out there and run. But jumping rope challenges you on every aspect of it. So, jumping rope is a big thing people should be doing. And body weight stuff. And then, of course, we live in a high-tech world that, you can always go to, different websites or go to YouTube and find stuff out there where, you got people doing body weight stuff. And, we're in the process now where we're trying to help some of the young athletes now. So we're trying to do, we're a buddy of mine, a former college teammate of yours, he's doing online body workouts. So he'll do like 2 days out of the week. And so what we're doing is, for some of our athletes, all athletes are indoors, we'll just tune into his broadcast at like 3 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursday. And he's doing a body weight workout. And he does it, every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so, so for some of the football players, I'm like, look, we can't meet. This is what you need to be doing. So that you're holding yourself accountable. And then that helps you stay ahead of the game. Because the worst thing, this is, when you're preparing for something, the last thing you want to do is show up out of shape. Because now if you show up out of shape, it makes everything harder. You got to get in shape. You can't really focus like you need to be. You can't even, the coach can't go through plays like he wants to because you're not in shape, because you're unprepared. So right now, the best thing is to do is body weight and, jumping rope and doing some type of cardio exercise, whether it be riding bikes, like I said, going out in the front yard, lunging, jogging. Like I said, jumping rope. You can do air ropes if you don't have a jump rope. It's something. Do it for time. And always when you're doing something, while you're doing a particular exercise, let's say jump rope. Let's say, okay, well, I did 20 push-ups in 10 seconds. Well, next time I do push-ups, I'm going to try to do 25 push-ups in 10 seconds. Always try to challenge yourself to be better or to do better every time you do an exercise. And then that'll also help you will help you stay competitive, and also will help you try to outdo yourself for the simple fact that you want to be better than what you were when you started. So that's one way you can do it. Just try out, if you don't have, brothers and sisters that are close to your age, you can kind of train with or do things with, even if you have younger siblings, make them chase you, if you don't have any weight, you can do push-ups. You can crank out 100 push-ups, put your little brother, little sister on your back and crank out as many push-ups you can in 60 seconds. Those are some little things that you can do.
So in that instance, I guess you're talking a little about getting everybody to tune in to some of those old episodes of Lockup when they're in prison doing prison workouts. So we need to fill some trash bags with some water and
water jugs.
Get our bunk mate to get on our shoulders and squat down.
Yep.
So I'm gonna ask my wife to hop on my shoulders after this interview and see if I can get those squats in.
I don't know, man, because you know how you was having issues with that back.
Yeah, I know.
Some squats. You might have to get a little one to put on your back to do it, because
I don't even know if I can have Callie do it either. Maybe I'm gonna start with Asher.
Yeah, work your way up to that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's tremendous. And here, watch this. I'm gonna have you do a little something. See if you'll give it to us, something for the people, man. So I had an opportunity. I met Ron Shucks back in like 2003 or 4, somewhere like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
like 2004, maybe, and 3. I don't know, somewhere like back in them times, 3 or 4, and I spent 2 years in Charleston. Charleston is beautiful country. It is some of the best kept secret in for you foodies out there that are interested in cuisines. Absolutely amazing. But here's the other thing about Charleston. Charleston is a land of Gullah people, which is awesome. Tremendous culture there, tremendous African-American history there, so much so that they speak their own language. So I used to go around and I never forget. I went to a drive-through my first night there because I flew in. It was late. My wife was in medical school, so basically I was there by myself. Just kind of give you the background to that. She was there, but she wasn't. So I went to go grab me something to eat, and I just remember pulling up to the drive-through window and having no idea what the person was saying. So much so I said, "Hey, I'm gonna just drive to the window." And I drove to the window. It wasn't no better. So, if you can, Ron,
Oh Lord,
give us a small training regimen with, I guess, like doing a set of 2 sets of 10 jumping jacks. Motivate us during that, and then tell us what you really just said. Or if you think it's something different.
Hold on. Repeat that again now.
So, like I was trying to put it in your motivating, your old, I forget, your training developing, athlete development hat on, and trying to get you to motivate us in Gullah. But if you just rather give us a couple sentences, that'd be fine too.
In Gullah, let me. I wouldn't say it's Gullah because my wife, she we call it some places Charlestonian, only because of in Charleston we speak this because you like a lot of other people I know. They said, man, y'all talk funny down there, and like for instance, boy, you look ya.
Yeah.
When people hear that, or grade day, it's like grade day, so you might be, you tell somebody, look here, and we'll say, boy, look here.
Yeah.
So yeah. We got a lot of little sayings here, and
listen. Man. Oh, so I'll give you the only one I know. What y'all to do? That's the only one I know. I learned that from a teammate of mine, Lance Legree, who was from what is it? It's next to Goose Creek. Keep going that way, like St. Charles or something like that.
St. George.
St. George. Yeah.
St. George.
So he found out that I was living in Charleston. He was freaking out. And so he immediately started talking Gullah to me. I started rolling. I was like, that's exactly how they sound.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
It's not talking Charleston. See what I'm saying?
It's not talking Charleston. You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, Gullah is a part of the history here.
Absolutely.
You hear the Gullah dialect. You also hear like in Louisiana they have Creole. Yeah, I was in Gullah. You're right. And what it is, and I wouldn't say it's people being. I guess it's people being lazy with the language. That's what I contribute to it.
No, it's not.
Because it's slang.
No, it's not. No.
You trying to put that on us, man.
So no. I'm gonna get on you because I did. So there's a Gullah tour that you need to go on. That's in Charleston. My wife and I have been on it probably 3 or 4 times. The best tour going on in Charleston. So anybody that gets a chance to listen to us, if you go to Charleston, South Carolina, go on the Gullah tour. Absolutely remarkable. But so it was the slaves that came here did all they could to keep their own language, their African dialect. So what it is a mix of African dialect, broken English, and a little bit of some other stuff that's put in there, their own little spices from being separated from their home country. And it became a language to the point where, and Ron can speak to this obviously way better than I can, in the outer islands, he probably would struggle to understand them. Even in the outer islands.
It's tough. You're right, it's tough. It's definitely tough, man. So, And I guess the one thing that, growing up, it was, everything seemed natural, so it didn't bother me. And when I had a chance to go to school, I worked with people from a lot of different other countries.
Right.
And getting a chance to hear that African dialect is like,
right.
I can understand the guy from Kenya, the guy from
You see how crazy that is?
Yeah. The coach like, White, what did he just say? I said, he said, if you say something else, I'm gonna do this. And so, cause I had a guy out there from out there that went to school out there, or as we say, the island. And he was one of my teammates. And when he would get mad and start talking fast, my coach would get mad because he was mad because he knew what he was saying.
Exactly.
He was talking trash. White, what did you say? He said, Coach, you better not talk to him like that no more. So I was like the interpreter.
Right.
So when I worked with those students from those other countries, I was able to pick up a whole lot faster based on, you're right. Some
and that should tell you what I said was true.
Right.
It is.
And the Avery Institute is a good place to visit too.
It's absolutely knowing exactly how to speak perfect English and deciding not to.
yeah, you're right. I can't fight because my wife, she talks about it all the time too. About having our daughter make sure she speaks the right language and stuff like that. It's like
no, she needs to. No, you need to teach her Gullah as well. I think it's amazing.
I'm glad you do.
Well, Ron, it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate you doing this with us today. We really appreciate it, and definitely we got to do this again.
Yeah, man.